Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and you know what time it is. It's time to answer the question, what is the best four-wheel drive 1/10 scale electric race buggy that you can buy today? We've got in front of us the four biggest brands. We've got the Schumacher CAT L1 Evo, the TLR 22X-4, the Team Associated B74.1, and the Xray XB4 21 Carpet Edition. And yes, these are all my own buggies, so I have a lot of experience with all of them because I've driven them, built them, raced them, tuned them, all that good stuff. And so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what's out there on the market. A couple other brands out there, but these are the four biggest brands, most popular. These are the newest ones on the market. So I think they provide a good representation of what you can buy. Now, I've done a couple of these reviews in the past, including stuff like the 22X4, the B64, the Techno EB410. But for me personally, I think these are the four to look at. Now, my local track is a carpet track, so my experiences with these buggies on carpet, I have them all set up for carpet, and we'll talk about, you know, the tunes and setups I have on them. But yeah, these are just kind of my opinions, and we're going to talk about these going from fourth to first place. Again, this is just my own opinion. Maybe you race a Yokomo or old Kyosho or something like that, and you think that's better, that's fine. But for the four that I owned, four that I've driven, this is going to be my opinion. In fourth place for me, it's going to be the Schumacher CAT L1 Evo. This came out in the beginning of 2020, or right at the end of 2019, actually, I think like December 30th or something like that. But I do have full reviews of all these buggies, so you can kind of check them out in depth if you want to know more about them. But for me, the CAT L1 Evo, really cool design. It's obviously the most different. It's the only belt drive vehicle. It's got two belts, kind of a upgrade to the regular CAT L1 that came out a few years ago. They basically added these additional carbon stiffeners up top, changed the front bulkheads, added like wider belts, a little more durability in the vehicle. But I have this set up with the Mikao Orlowski carpet setup. Pretty much the full setup except for the flex chassis, and I think he's using thinner chassis braces. But yeah, there are some different parts you'll want to get, like the 8-degree front hubs, the Roche drive shafts, some different springs. So there are some different upgrades, I think different sway bars as well, to get it set up for carpet. In my opinion, the stock kit setup, I guess it's designed more for maybe AstroTurf or high traction dirt or something like that. But if you want to run carpet, I do recommend getting those additional parts. They will help it to steer a little bit better. Downsides to the CAT L1 Evo, I think it is the heaviest. I do feel like the belts and sort of all these additional bearings and stuff in the drivetrain, these tensioners, do drag a little bit, rob you of a little bit of power. So for 13.5 turn spec racing, I think probably not the best choice, just because you'd probably be running a little bit slower than the other buggies out there. Design is pretty interesting. The chassis is extremely stiff, probably worth getting the flex chassis. With those additional carbon stiffeners that they added, the car is extremely stiff. You know, it doesn't land quite as forgiving as I think the other buggies. A little more stable, a little bit more, you know, sort of easy to drive, I guess, rather than super aggressive. So it's a good buggy, very neat. Definitely the one I would keep of the four of these, just because it is so different. It does have some interesting aspects like the front adjustable brake, you know, the different stiffeners, even the tensioners on the belts affect the stiffness of the vehicle and how it drives. So yeah, a lot of tunability in this vehicle. Certainly can be set up for carpet or dirt or AstroTurf, you know, probably for what it's been designed. But for me and the kind of racing I do, 13.5 turn spec racing here in the United States, on carpet, probably not the best choice, and the least likely that I would pick up to go race. Fun to drive, really neat, but at the end of the day, probably not the best choice. It also sells for $550, which price-wise is kind of in line, not particularly cheap, not particularly expensive. But in fourth place for me is going to be the Schumacher CAT L1 Evo. In third place is the Team Associated B74.1. This has been out for a little over a year. Obviously just some minor updates to the regular B74. We'll pop off the body and kind of take a quick look at what's going on underneath. But yeah, as you can see, this is kind of the classic shaft drive design pioneered by the Xray XB4 and has been kind of I would say almost copied or inspired at least for all the other buggies, including this Team Associated B74.1. A little bit different in some aspects. It's got sort of these aluminum bulkhead holders that allow you to basically raise, lower the diffs. So a lot of adjustments in the vehicle. It does come in two versions, which I think is really nice. It comes in a dirt version as well as the B74.1 carpet edition, which is what I am running. A little bit heavier than the other buggies. I would say the kit setup is actually really good. It's a very easy to drive vehicle. It's probably the most durable of the four as well. I don't think I've broken anything. I know some people have broken arms or drive shafts and that kind of thing, but for me personally, never really broke anything on this. I find it super durable, easy to drive. So the kit setup, very neutral. I think if you're new to four-wheel drive racing or just new to racing in general, you can throw that on, be fairly confident. I think it's also the buggy I make the fewest mistakes with, just because it's a very neutral, easy to drive vehicle. Pretty well set up for 13.5 racing. There are optional parts like composite gears, lightweight drive shafts and stuff that you can pick up, but overall I don't find anything particularly great about this vehicle. It is heavier than the other ones, so for 13.5 maybe not the best choice. The other ones feel a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker, a little more corner speed, whereas this feels a little more stable, a little more easy to drive, but a little bit on the heavier side as well. So in third place for me is going to be the Team Associated B74.1. Absolutely nothing wrong with this vehicle. This is at least as, you know, sort of par with the other things out there on the market, but I don't think it's the fastest. I don't think it's necessarily really the best choice in terms of speed, performance, cornering, all that kind of stuff. So for me, third place is the Team Associated B74.1. In second place is the TLR 22X-4. This has been out for about 1.5 years. Excellent buggy, extremely fast, extremely capable. It only comes in one version, really more of a dirt version. We'll pop off the hood and kind of take a look at the vehicle. Again, similar to the B74.1 and the Xray XB4 in design, but they're a little more tuning options. You can move the center differential up or back. They do have a slipper option as well, which is obviously I am running center diff. You'll typically want to run on dirt, but I set this thing up for carpet, so I'm running the latest Dakota Fen carpet setup, which does require quite a few changes, including like the 60-degree front hubs here, different springs, different drive shafts to move that center slipper up front, what they call, I think it's called the LCV drive shafts, basically the constant velocity drive shaft. So there are some different parts you'll need if you want to run this as a carpet setup. I think out of the box it's really more set up for dirt, but even for that you'll want to pick up the center differential, which costs, I don't know, $50-$60 or so. But yeah, very centralized mass, a lot of stuff up front, very narrow. In my opinion, this is probably the quickest buggy of the four. I think I can put down the quickest laps with this buggy. It does have the, obviously the rubber band battery tray, which some people like, some people don't. I think it's actually pretty cool. Nice little touches like a fan mount. A lot of adjustments, although they do not have differential, different diff heights in the hub or in the diff cases, so that is a little bit different. But it is fantastic. Really fast buggy. Also the cheapest at $500, including pre-cut body, pre-cut wing. So a lot of nice touches. I think includes wheels as well. One of the things that the Team Associated does not come with. So fantastic buggy. Really the only downsides I think to this is probably the most fragile of the four. I have definitely broken arms, shock shafts. I know people break bulkheads. Not probably the most durable of the four. I don't think it's fragile by any means. This thing is definitely still pretty tough. Most four-wheel drive buggies at this point are really fast. I do like that they went to the IFMAR offset wheels, so you can have compatible tires for your Schumachers, your Xrays, etc. So that is a change from the 22.4 2.0, which I also had. They finally went to kind of a standardized front wheel, so this will match all the tires and wheels from all the other major brands. So a really good buggy overall. I think it's really more of a advanced drivers type of vehicle. You do need some skills The kit setup is fairly aggressive. Even on carpet, it's a fairly aggressive vehicle. I do feel like I make a couple more mistakes with this than the Xray, but ultimately this is probably the quickest of the four. I do feel like the corner speed on this thing is pretty ridiculous. The steering, the handling is amazing. The shocks are probably the best as well. They have really nice machined pistons, X-rings, machined little spacers, just high quality vehicle overall. A lot of thought was put into this, and certainly you can see this in the results on the track. You know, Dakota Finn for the most part is like kicking everyone's butt with this buggy, and a lot of people think this is the best buggy out there, and who am I to say that they're wrong, but there are some downsides, and so we'll talk about that when we get to the Xray. But yeah, in second place, excellent buggy, the TLR 22X-4. And that brings us to the winner in this four-wheel drive buggy shootout, and that's going to be the Xray XB4 2021. I picked up the carpet edition. Amazing buggy. This is actually my first Xray. Huge shout out to your RC for sponsoring this vehicle, as well as Wits Racing Bearings. But this is an amazing buggy. The fit and finish, quality of the components is definitely a step above. They call this, you know, a luxury race buggy, whatever that means. But yeah, fantastic buggy. A lot of updates in the 2021, like different diff heights, different axle angles, a lot of changes. So this is probably the biggest change that they've made to the buggy in the past, you know, probably since it first came out. It does have this like adjustable slipper for front and rear tension. So this thing on the brakes is fantastic. The Schumacher also on the brakes has that front adjustable brake, which makes it a little more stable under braking, but this is equally as stable. Probably the lightest of the four, so for spec racing, a fantastic choice. For me personally, this has kind of the speed and the cornering ability of the 22X-4, coupled with kind of the ease of drive of the B74.1, and then in addition to that, just kind of the high quality vehicle overall. Really good for spec racing. They do make a dirt version, they do make a carpet edition, so if you're picking up one for a particular surface, you're going to have most of the parts you really need. I think I only changed out like the springs or something like that, but other than that, pretty much all kit parts out of the box. Just a fantastic vehicle. Kit setup is really good. Maybe a couple of little changes you want to make, but for the most part, I think the kit setup is pretty close to perfect. They did redesign the battery tray, so a little bit easier to get to, different stiffeners. Just a fantastic vehicle. My first foray into Xray, and I'm really impressed with this thing. The only thing I felt like they need is some sort of shock tower guard. I don't know why they don't have one for Xray, considering this is a carpet car and you don't want your front shock towers tearing up the carpet. But yeah, best four-wheel drive electric 1/10 scale race buggy for me is going to be the Xray XB4. I'll put down links to all these vehicles so you can pick them up if you want to get one for yourself. Really, the downsides to the Xray, it is pricey. It is the most expensive of the four. You get a little bit more premium parts, I think, in the kit than the other ones, although the shocks, in my opinion, are not the greatest. They're okay, but they still got, you know, the molded pistons. They still have these shock caps that aren't I don't know, for whatever reason, they seem to not tighten down as well as the other ones. They do use slightly smaller springs as well. So other brand springs will fit on this, but Xray springs will not fit on the other brands. But yeah, fantastic vehicle. All the parts are excellent. It does come with wheels in the box. Really no complaints about it. I guess they don't have a fan mount. I did rig up my own little fan mount there, but yeah, fantastic vehicle. This is kind of the originator of this classic four-wheel drive shaft drive design, where you got the EC and servo out front, and then motor and battery here in the back, and then kind of the center differential. So with the spine stiffeners and all that kind of stuff, pretty much everyone else has kind of copied it. And what Xray did was say, hey, you know what, we're just gonna go a whole nother step forward. So they got tilting bulkheads, so a couple of changes, different battery trays, I forgot what else they've changed on this thing. But yeah, fantastic vehicle, fast, pretty durable, although I think the hard arms are a little bit weak, so I did end up going to the regular arms. But yeah, for me, 2021, best 1/10 scale four-wheel drive buggy is going to be the Xray. I hope you enjoyed this video. Throw down a comment below what you think the best four-wheel drive buggy is, if you have one, what things you'd like to race, and definitely look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.